Okay. So um, today would be the last day of the Python programming session. And I'm glad that we all have sticked until the last day. We have covered a lot of ground. I've shown you the mind map from where you can access the latest of the stuff. Okay, and I promise you that very frequently we will keep updating the Python programming stuff. And I just switched on the light so that you see me properly. And I also promised you all that we'll be adding a lot of interview questions on our social media platforms. We will be conducting another session, and this time the training would be even more comprehensive, right? Even more structured, right? And also, we had a couple of things that we were supposed to talk about. I'll talk about those. And then towards the end, I'll explain you about the next steps. So let's get started. First things first, I wish to not back off from my statements that I'm going to explain you about this specific format, this example, where I thought, okay, let me get some additional meat around that and give you guys complete clarity on what that line of code does. So here, we are using triple quotes, and within triple quotes, you are mentioning the details, right? Date.iso calendar, what this does is, if you're going to give a specific date like 2003, 12, 29, what happens is the year, when it comes to ISO standards, Thursday is the middle of the week. Monday is always the start of the week. And ISO years always start with Monday. And ISO years can have either 52 full weeks or 53 full weeks. So ISO years do not have any fractional weeks during the beginning of the year or at the end of the year. At the end of the year or at the beginning, they don't have any fractional weeks. So in this, let me reconnect. I'll remove the 3 lines here. And if you were to run this, it's going to connect to one of the servers, and then it shows these results. And in order to show you the calendar, let me open the calendar app here, and then let me show you something. Let me go to year. We need to go to year 2003. And we need to go to December 29. If you observe, December 29th happens to be Monday. Okay. And the new year, according to ISO standards, starts on a Monday. Right? It starts on a Monday. So that is why it's changing this to the next year, because the next year starts on 1st, which happens to be Thursday, but Thursday is ideally the start of the middle of the week. And it is also written that ISO years always start with Monday. If first happens to be any day apart from Monday, and if you give a date and say, hey, show me the ISO calendar, it would switch to the first. It starts saying that, okay, do you know what? The new year, according to ISO, starts every Monday. So that is what it's going to be. So it is going to be 1st Jan, though you gave this. If I were to change this to probably say 28, okay, it says that this is a year, this is a week number. We are in 52nd week. 28/12 is a 52nd week, that's 28. And then which day of the week is it? If I were to show you, 28 happens to be Sunday. And according to ISO standards, Monday will be the first day of the week, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. And then you have 28, which is the seventh day. And this week happens to be the 52nd week. And the year happens to be 2003. All right, so that's how it works. Now, when you say 29, it falls into the next week. It falls into the next week, okay? And next week happens to be not the 53rd week. So either, according to ISO years, you'll either have 52 full weeks or 53 full weeks. So after the 52 full weeks, because 28 when I've given here, it was saying that it is 52nd week. After that, it says that, you know what, this belongs to 2004 first week. And this happens to be the first day. If you look at 29, 29th is what? First day. And this happens to be this is the day number. This happens to be the week number, because this happens to be the first week of 2014. Okay. Because year doesn't start somewhere in between, according to ISO standards. So that's the change or difference. This is one thing that I wanted to explain. Another thing I wanted to explain was access. When you say access equal to 1, what happens? Will it throw me error? Let's see. Yeah, fine, it's working. Okay. So when we give access equal to 1, what happens? Access equal to 1 will refer to the columns. What are the columns in this data set, DFS? X1, X2, and X3 are the 3 columns. When you say take the maximum value of these columns, it will go to first row of these columns. Still, it is processing all the columns, and it will find out what is the maximum value, which happens to be 10. And then it will also process of all the columns, this row, and then it takes the minimum value, and then you're adding these two to give you 10. Okay. And then once again, you go to all these 3 columns of row 2, and then you pick up the maximum value, which happens to be 11. And you also pick up the minimum value, which happens to be 1. And then you add them up to get the number. That is how it works. If I were to change this to access equal to 0, access equal to 0 will refer to what? It will refer to the various rows. If I were to run it, for all these rows, it will take all the rows of this column. So when it takes all the row numbers, and then when it tries to figure out what is the maximum value happens to be 5, because you're processing the rows. And then minimum value here happens to be 1. Okay. And then when you add these two, we get 6. Then you have all these values. And let me choose a different color. It will go to X2, it will take all these values, and then it will pick up the maximum value, which happens to be 14. And then it will also try to pick up the minimum value, which happens to be 10. And when you add these two, you get 24. And that is what we get. So this is how it works, friends. Okay, next. Now we need to move ahead and try to understand a few other time-based functions, which we have, discussed yesterday, wherein we have created a random date. We have defined a function called as random date. We are giving a start and an end, okay? And I mean, whatever you write here in triple quotes or a hash would be treated as a comment, okay? It doesn't have any influence on the output. So we are going to take the end, subtract it from the start so that we understand what is the difference of the delta. And then that delta would be in days, because you give date, start date and end date. Then you are going to convert the days into seconds, and you'll also have seconds, right? When you have start and end, you can have a date and time. Date, and when it comes to time, you can have hours, minutes, seconds, and microseconds. So you're ensuring that you convert everything into seconds and add them up and randomly generate some number from that. Okay. And then translate that into the current time. So you're saying, take the start value, add what is the time difference in seconds, and return the value. And we have done same thing. What we have done here is we have defined what should be the D1 and D2. D1 happens to be start in this random date function, and D2 happens to be the end. So from these two, you want to randomly generate some number and give it as an output. So when I run it, each time you'll have a random date, time. Okay, randomly you'll have date and time in this specific format, which would lie in between these two. This is the start, and this happens to be the end. In between these two. Okay, next. We have also done this. If I say, or we haven't done it, so I'm explaining. Date time, you're creating an object and you're creating an empty container. And you're assigning that empty container to this. And here you're saying for I in range of 50. So you want 50 different values to be printed. And then you're saying date time dot keep appending the values to this. What do you want? You want random date D1 and D2. So you're saying subtract D1 and D2. This random date, already here we have understood that this random date happens to be an inbuilt function. User-defined function. We have defined this function, and you're saying D1, D2. D1 is already defined by you. D2 is also defined by you. What do you want to do? You want to randomly generate a date, like in between these two. And you're saying, okay, year, month, date, hours, minutes, seconds. And how many of those do you want to print out? 50. 0 until 49. So this loop will keep on getting generated, and you keep on appending the values, and finally you print out the results onto the screen. Okay, next. If we say generate random date string format. So what we are doing is we are creating an object called date underscore time. And this is an empty container. Once again, there is nothing in that. Okay, it is an empty container. Then you are writing a for loop for I in range of 50. So that means for I equal to 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way until 49. Okay, what are we doing here? We are saying randomly generate numbers in this range, convert it into a string plus segregate it with hyphen. That's what it means. So date, randomly generate a date, randomly generate an year, then hyphen, then randomly generate a month from 1 to 12, and then, attach them using a hyphen, and then randomly generate a number in between 1 to 25. And you're saying, keep appending this year, month, day, whatever is getting randomly generated, keep appending it. So you'll have 50 such things. Keep adding one after another to this, and then look at the results. Here we go. All these are values which are getting printed in this range that you have defined. Okay. All right. So here we are importing pandas as PD. I mean, that's the basic thing that we have discussed long back. And we are creating a data frame wherein we are creating 3 columns, column 1, column 2, and column 3. And you're putting date and time here, date and time. And this date time 01, this format here. And third column is date underscore time 1. So you're just adding those. And then you say that, hey, let me see the first 3 entries. This is not needed because this I have hidden basically. Let's run only these 2. And there we go. Column 1 and column 2. We have generated, right? This date underscore time, we are treating it as column 1, and then date underscore time 0, that's column 2, and you see the first 5 entries because you're saying head, which will show the first 5 entries. You can say .info. What are the various columns that we have? So you have 2 columns. One is of type data, date time. Another is showing as an object. Okay, why is it showing here as an object? Because you just created a data frame. Sorry. Yeah, we are just printing the results. That's it, as is. Okay, but here, however, we are saying date time, and we are saying date underscore time here, and we are already converting this D1 and D2 into a date time format. Okay. Whereas here you are taking it as a string. You're taking it as a string and randomly generating. You have nothing to do with the date time data types here. We don't have that. Yeah. So there we go. And one more thing I thought of explaining you, and I should not forget this, right? 2 things before we proceed further. Let me see if I can go there and explain you this. Yeah, it should be there. Yep, there we go. Okay, so there are 2 things, right? strp, I mean, you can call it as stripping the time because it's going to strip the year, month, date, hour, minute, second, in that way. Or if you want exactly what P means, then it is called as parse. Okay, this is parse time. And here you have F, which is nothing but formatting time. What is the difference between strp time versus strf time? This specific method here, strp time, what it does is it's going to create a date time object from a string. So what we are doing here is, this is just a string, friends. String is nothing but collection of alphanumerical values, right? That's a string. Typically, when you put it in single quotes or double quotes, etc., it will be called as a string. So this is a string, and strp time would actually convert this specific string, which is in this string you're storing in this part is being taken, and when you use strp time, it is going to convert that object, this object, into date time object. So when you say, hey, what is the type of this, after applying this function, it says that the type happens to be date time. This is what it does. But then your strf time would return, okay, so here what it does is, it will convert your string to a data object, data time object. However, strf, what does this do? It is going to return a string from a date time object. So if you have a date time object, from that, it will help you convert this into a string format. So when you say, hey, publish me this, it's going to publish, and this is a string. If you want to know what is the type of that object, it will be string. If you want to know what will be the type of this object which is printed because of this line, it will be string. Okay, that's the difference. So I'm hoping that whatever I've promised that I'm going to cover, I'm going to explain by probably doing some additional research to represent that in a better manner. I'm upholding whatever I've told. Then you have various data types. It says that the first column is date time, and the second one is an object, right? All right. So these two I'm just going to cover probably the next time when we conduct such a session. And these are pretty simple. If you say df.head, you get to see the first 5 rows. We have discussed umpteen number of times. Here, you can also sort the values. If you say, hey, help me sort the values by first column. Okay, and if you say in place equal to false, we already discussed in place equal to true and false, right? When you use in place equal to false, it performs the operations on the data, and it will create a new copy of the data. New copy of data would be created, right? If you say equal to true, new copy is not created. It just performs the operation on the data. And if you say, I want to see the top 10 rows, this is how it is. And then if you see, 1998, 4/6, so on and so forth. April 6th, August 13, 1998. It's sorted based on that in increasing order or ascending order. If you just say ascending equal to false, what would it do? It's going to print in ascending order, obviously. If I say sort the values by first column, in place equal to false, that means you want the operation to be performed on the data and you want to return a new copy of that. And if you say ascending equal to false, it would print in the reverse order, starting from 2019, 2018 in the descending order. It will sort the data and will pick the first 10 rows and then display to you on your computer. Then we can also use multiple columns for sorting. However, importance would be given to the first column. Whatever you mention here, importance would be given to that first, followed by whatever column name or, whatever column name you provide next. Next importance will be given to the next column name, so on and so forth. Here, just remember that whenever you want to call the column names, either you can call them using the double quotes or single quotes, doesn't matter. Okay. So we are trying to sort the values using both the columns, in place equal to false, and you want to sort them in ascending order, meaning increasing order, and then you want to see the top 10 rows. Why is it not showing? Do I not have the second column? Okay, let me say second column. Because that column name doesn't exist. Yeah. Now, if I were to run, it should throw the results out. So since out of these two columns, it will give first importance to this, and then it's going to sort in the ascending order, and it will pick the first 10 rows. Then how do I read files with Pandas? First of all, if you want to read the files from Google Colab, you should say that from Google Colab, import the drive and drive.mount of this. If you do not like to run this line of code, these two lines of code, you just can click on this folder icon here and then click on this. So first click on this, and then you can always click on this, and then it's going to mount. It's going to run these lines of code automatically. Let me close this and then let me go here. So you have cars dataset. If I go here, if you want to load the dataset, you just need to click on this. I'll click on that and just type the file that you would be interested in. And you have the cars dataset. Okay, so the cars dataset is loaded here. If you were to run it, the cars dataset got loaded, and you see that we have read the file using pandas.read_csv. We gave the path, name of the file, and the extension in single quotes. We save that in this object or variable, and we are saying .head, which shows the first 5 rows. Then you can also read JSON files, Java files in some sense, right? So within the sample data, which should be by default available for everyone to access and then do some research on that, you have Anscombe dataset. It's a famous dataset to explain you about the correlation between the various variables. And this file is available under sample data. You say pandas.read_JSON, give the complete path. Okay, if you are in doubt, just click there, say copy the path, and then you can give the complete path over there. You store the data in this, and then you say JSON head, which will show you the first 5 rows. Okay, and then we have a specific dataset called sample dataset. Let me also import that. It should be in the downloads folder. Yeah, there we go, sample dataset. Come on, yeah, here it is. Within this sample dataset, if I were to open that and show you, let me open that. Come up. Yeah, there we go. So here, if you observe carefully, we have 3 different sheets: food sales, player data, policy data. These are the 3 things that you have. Okay. And those are 3 sheets. If you want to refer to a specific sheet, you say, hey, I want to refer in this data set only player data. So it will go to this player data and it will pick the data only from this sheet. And then it's going to load the data. And you're storing that in an object. You're saying .head, which will show you the first 5 rows. There is another way to read that. By default, the sheet name is 0. The default value is 0, meaning it will refer to the first sheet. In your Excel, it's going to refer to the first sheet. When you say 1, it will refer to this player data. When you say 2, it is going to refer to policy data. So let me read it and show the first 5 rows. When you say .info, you get to see each and every column, and there we go. And when you say .describe, you get to see the count, mean, standard deviation, minimum value, max value, 25th percentile, 75th, 50th, so on and so forth. Okay, So this marks the end of our journey. So friends, you need to congratulate each one of you for completing this session training. Right? So a few things as part of your next steps. So that it doesn't disturb us a lot. Okay. With respect to the next steps, you can pursue data analytics training, which we have. Within data analytics, we are going to cover SQL, NoSQL, advanced Excel, Python programming, R programming, and then we shall also cover Tableau and Power BI. This is one, path that you might want to choose. If you feel that, I'm a fresher, I don't want to get into machine learning, deep learning, etc. I just want to get a beginner level job, then yep, data analytics is the right way to go. However, if you feel that, no, I'm going to put in some hard work, then you can proceed further with data scientist. We have two certifications, certificate program in data science, professional certificate program in data science and AI. Okay. So you learn amazing number of tools, techniques, and all that. Third, we also have a profession called as data engineer. You might also want to pursue this. Okay. So here are the next steps for anyone who learns Python programming well, can pursue these kind of roles and shape up their careers further. So do reach out to us if you have any questions, and please do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we are coming up with a lot of master classes, and from this weekend onwards, which will be what? 13th of August 2022 to be precise, from morning 9 a.m. onwards, you will be learning text mining and NLP. So feel free to learn and enjoy the sessions. Thank you all so much once again for joining in, and do subscribe for the to the YouTube channel and notify your friends, relatives also about this. And also on LinkedIn, you should have answered the quiz questions. And finally, you always can post a comment and we are going to reply to that. Thank you all once again. And this marks the end of our journey. Thank you all once again for being patient and then understanding all the concepts. Practice, friends. Only practice makes you perfect. Okay, so see you again, friends. Bye until then. Thank you.